Hi guys, welcome to my channel. You're watching Cool Mitochondria. Today's topic of discussion is structure of a muscle, and in the next class we learn about how a muscle contracts. So muscle, it is very important for movement in our body. There are three kinds of muscles: smooth muscles, cardiac muscles and skeletal muscles. Today we'll be discussing in detail about skeletal muscles. Skeletal muscles are attached to our bones and help in movement of our body, voluntary movement of our body. So there are a few properties of muscles, which is excitability. It can get excited, it can extend, it is elastic, and it can also contract. Now we will learn about the basic structure which is required for contraction of muscles so that it causes movement. Okay, so here I have a typical muscle. This is a skeletal muscle, imagine. Now this skeletal muscle, if you take a cross section of it, you will see this structure. Okay, this is fascia. It's a connective tissue which surrounds the muscle, and these boxes kind of things you see here are fascicles or muscle bundles. So they are bundles of cells which are bound by fascia again. Okay, so these muscle bundles again have individual muscle cells in it. Okay, and this individual muscle cells, they're supplied by blood vessels. As you can see, I've drawn them in blue here. So this is an individual muscle cell. Now if you look at the individual muscle cell, it has a lot of striations. Striations are basically, when you look at it, you can distinctly see dark and light bands. Now we're going to discuss what those dark and light bands actually are. Before that, let's discuss a few terms which you're going to come across in this chapter. That is sarcoplasm. Sarcoplasm is nothing but cytoplasm of the muscles. So anything to sarco laga do uske samne, it becomes something of the muscle. So sarcoplasm is the cytoplasm of the muscle. Sarcoplasmic reticulum, as you can make it out, it's the endoplasmic reticulum of the muscle, and this sarcoplasmic reticulum has calcium ions stored in it, and this sarcoplasmic reticulum also has different tubules. Transverse tubules are the one which are transverse or perpendicular to the myofibrils. Myofibrils are these striations which you can see, and longitudinal ones, so T tubules and L tubules, longitudinal ones go parallel with the myofibrils, and they store in calcium ions which are required for muscle contraction. Yeah, sarcoplasm, sarcoplasmic reticulum, and also muscle cells, especially skeletal muscle cells, are syncytium. Syncytium matlab this cell has more than one nucleus. Okay, you've already done this in structural organization chapter, but I'm just reminding you. Okay, now let's come to what these striations are. So muscle, when you look at them, it has a number of myofibrils. Myofibrils are basically what makes up these striations, and they are made up of two filaments. One is actin and other is myosin. Okay, and these two filaments are arranged in two distinct light and dark bands. Actin forms the light band, also known as isotropic band, and myosin, it forms the dark band, also known as anisotropic band. Okay, so this black lines you see here are the actin filaments, and the blue one is the myosin filament. And now how this is arranged is what I'm going to tell you. Now actin filaments are together arranged to this one black line you see here called as Z line. It's made up of another protein called actinin. Okay, so actin filaments are arranged to that, and these myosin filaments are present in between two given actin filaments attached to a Z line, as you can see here. Okay, and the middle of myosin filament is also known as M line. Okay, it's another membrane. Now the thing you have to note here is actin filaments and myosin filaments don't completely overlap each other. Okay, so you can see this small space here where there is no actin and there is only myosin filament, that is only the dark band is there. So this zone is what you call the H zone. Okay? And the whole structure in between two Z lines is known as the sarcomere, or the unit of muscle contraction. So when they ask you what is the unit of muscle contraction, you have to say the area or the stuff enclosed between two given Z lines. Okay? And what happens when muscles contract is this H zone which is there, it disappears. And if you see in NCERT, you can see the actual diagram of how a muscle looks. You can see that this part is light and this part is darker, and the H zone again is lighter because actin isn't overlapping completely. So these are the regions of sarcomere, and sarcomere is the unit of contraction of a muscle. Now the last thing I'm going to teach you today is the structure of actin and myosin. Okay, actin is this molecule, actin. It's made up of 3 proteins which you have to know about. First one is the filamentous protein. So there are certain globule-like structures which join together to form a filamentous protein, which is seen here. 2 bands of the filamentous protein run anti-parallel to or parallel to each other. Now the second one is tropomyosin. Okay, let's call this F-actin or filamentous actin. This blue line you see here is the tropomyosin. And this one, it covers the binding sites of actin, and it's also a structural protein in actin. The third one, very important one, is troponin. Okay, let me draw troponin here. This troponin has 3 subunits, okay? And it's spread out throughout the actin in different places, either ek troponin, etc. Now this troponin, the 3 parts are troponin I. Troponin I is troponin inhibitor, which inhibits the attachment of myosin to actin for contraction. And troponin C is the one which hides the calcium binding site and which gets bound to the calcium, which we're going to learn about in muscle contraction. The last troponin we're going to talk about is troponin T. So troponin T binds to tropomyosin. Okay, so there are 3 sites. One is inhibitory site, one is where calcium ions get attached, and the third one is where troponin is attached to tropomyosin. So this is the structure of actin. Now let's move to myosin. Myosin is made up of meromyosin, and it has 2 parts. One is the heavy meromyosin and one is the light meromyosin. Now heavy meromyosin will be the head part. This is the head, and this is a cross arm or short arm. So this short arm or cross arm, it helps in binding to actin, and it helps in moving the myosin filament so as to enable contraction. So these 2 parts form the heavy meromyosin, and you can figure it out from the name that they're heavier than this part, which is the tail part, and this one is light meromyosin. Okay, so this is the myosin, this is the structure of myosin. It has head, short arm and tail, plus it has 2 additional sites. This one here is the actin binding site. So troponin, it binds to actin from this site, and this one is ATP binding site. So troponin also binds to ATP because ATP helps in releasing energy which is required for muscle contraction. So these are the 2 sites, and this is the structure of troponin, meromyosin, or the heavy dark band. So that's pretty much it for today. I hope you liked the class, and please let me know what I should take next. I'm mostly going to take the mechanism of muscle contraction. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Like, share and subscribe.